All right, welcome back to the Radicards podcast on radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno, and we have Ryan Daly on the other end. And we're going to be
Hey,
talking. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So we're going to be talking about, updates in baseball and the card market and just fill you in on some things. And so let's get right into it here. First things first, today was a big day for the Angels. And we got some good news from Ohtani. His health is, I guess they're going to put him right into the batting position, the batting role. And so that's
hmm
that's actually really good for the hobby because I was actually concerned that it was going to be bad news. So this is really nice to hear. I'm glad that we're going to be seeing more of him this season. This is also going to be good for the hobby because people that are prospecting for him won't have to worry about their investments going into the toilet, essentially. So this will be a really good move for him. I'm hoping to see that he continues to remain healthy throughout the season, and we see him perform. I don't know what this is going to look like for his pitching role, but it's good to see that he'll at least be utilizing half of his talents.
Absolutely. And it's a half of his talents that have really been impressive, at least through this first part of the season. Um, he wasn't really DHing a whole lot because they benched him the day before and the day after he pitched. So that really limited his time at the plate to show off his offensive prowess. But when he was in the game and he was a game changer, he showed that he could hit even the elite level pitching in the MLB. So it's going to be fun to see him sort of mentally focus on just hitting for the rest of the year. And to your point about his arm health, I don't really think anybody knows uh, where the future is with that. He's going to continue to get stem cell injections into his elbow. Um, and everybody's sort of crossing their fingers that there's not Tommy John surgery in the offseason. Because if that's the case, then we're probably not going to see him pitch until like 2020, which is a really daunting thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but luckily for him, he's such a freak. He throws right-handed and he bats left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's batting, he can have his non-throwing arm sort of out in the danger zone of getting hit by the ball, where
Right.
his throwing arm is sort of in the back, somewhat protected. Now anything can happen when he's out there. He's sliding around. He's diving for balls. Anything can happen to that arm. So it is kind of a risk to have him out there. Um, but I think the ideal situation is that he continues to hit. He continues to get the therapy on his elbow, and the UCL tear eventually just sort of takes care of itself, and he's back to the two-way player in 2019.
Yeah, we talked about this previously that because he pitches right and bats left, his dominant pitching arm is not his dominant hitting arm, which
Right.
which
It's
would
great.
yeah, it is. It's coincidentally great actually is really what is. It's really fantastic that it works out that way, so that he can still perform, with his other role, despite
hmm
having issues on the other side of his body being utilized from his other role. So this is a really nice thing, and I was curious to know if this was going to be evaluated in this capacity because I think it's really important to look at these things from a possibility standpoint. Like, okay, well, if he hits this way, then we may still be able to utilize his hitting ability. Now, I don't know, like you were saying, I don't know what this is going to look like for his pitching. I personally, if I were managing, I wouldn't let him pitch the rest of the season and let him take the off season just to like, get whatever medical
hmm
attention he needs that might not be major, hopefully, and he can produce procure a very successful recovery. So
Right.
anyway, at the end of the day, I think it's great that he's back in the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, in the future. Now, the next question that I have is, because he's a dual role talent, knowing the risks going in, will the Angels, should they be encouraging him to utilize both roles, like down the line, like knowing that there's a possibility of him pitching and missing a whole season? See, for me, I would basically. I mean, that's a hard thing to think about, but for me, I feel like he should utilize the hitting role as opposed to the pitching role because I feel like that's a less risk opportunity for him.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting notion to think about because his pitching numbers and his performances up until he got hurt weren't off the charts. I think he was impressing people in that he was hitting and pitching, but he was probably like a number 3, number 4 starter level as far as his pitching ability went. He's got the freakish talent of being able to throw 100 miles an hour consistently. Mm-hmm. But as far as just getting guys out and going deep into games, he wasn't amazing in that respect. However, now we know that he was dealing with this injury the entire time.
Right.
So who knows if he's able to just hit for the rest of the season, take the offseason, get healthy, and come back, he might be able to be an ace on the mound and at the plate like people thought he might be. So I think it's exciting. It's an exciting future for Ohtani and for the Angels and for the game of baseball, and most importantly for the hobby.
Yeah, truly. Speaking of the hobby, there has been very little hype surrounding the Superfractor. And it's okay. So here's the thing: the Bowman Chrome Superfractor auto was pulled around the same time that the 3 other Superfractors from the 2018 Finest arm were pulled. So they're all pulled kind of at the same time. So it kind of dilutes the attention away, kind of.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, wow. Okay, I get it. And so 4 different Superfractors basically being thrown into the market around the same time. It's a lot. And, the market's caught on to producing, well, the manufacturing market anyway, is caught on to producing Superfractors and variations of them. One's with the autograph and one's without the autograph. And so you've got more to put into the hobby, more to put in the market for collectors. And so there's more opportunity, which means that the focus is taken away from any one Superfractor, even just for a little, even if small margin. I just think it's interesting that we have all these great cards coming out right around the time that he gets hurt, and just people don't care anymore for some reason. I think it's because the season started and we're so much percentage, nearly halfway into the season, and so we are already seeing performance and we're already seeing things happen, and then Ohtani gets hurt. So Superfractor was actually pulled, I think, a bad time. The Bowman Chrome Superfractor, and we've established that in a previous episode, but it's just interesting to see that that's just not something people are really talking about really right now.
Yeah, it died off really quickly, and we've seen this before in the hobby. I think this is a pretty extreme example. I think another factor in this equation is that he plays for kind of a small market team. He plays for a team that's not particularly doing well right now. If he was this 2-way phenom on the Red Sox or on the Dodgers or the Yankees, I think maybe his hobby appeal would have maybe not have stayed at that peak level, but it would have leveled out to another level of popularity.
Right.
As opposed to just sort of going completely quiet as we're seeing right now. I mean, if you look on eBay, there's still a lot of amazing pieces that have been pulled, low numbered autograph.
Oh gosh, tons.
So there's a lot of stuff up there, but I mean, it's not moving as well as we saw back in April, May. Those were the really peak times for him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be lots of different parallels from all the different releases, and after a while, sometimes I feel like the market gets kind of burned out on everything. But yeah, I mean that's just the way the ball rolls in this particular niche market. So anyway, it's kind of good. Like it's going back to him. Glad to see he's back on in the game, and we're going to see some more of him. So we're hoping that he's able to have a very successful remainder of the season. So good job, awesome stuff. I'm glad we got to talk about that. Moving on. Ronald Acuna is activated from DL.
Yes, he is. Freak injury, really awful injury to watch live, but turned out to be not as bad as it looked. And he spent some time on the 10-day disabled list, and he's back. So we'll see if he's 100% healthy. He's a young guy, so he can bounce back.
Right.
And I assume he'll continue to help his team. Like we've talked about before, the Braves are having kind of a Cinderella story of a season. I don't think people were quite expecting them to be in the place that they are. So hopefully Acuna can help them maintain that performance. And I haven't checked his card sales recently. I don't think I need to. I know they're probably still strong. Have you checked him out?
I mean, his stuff still does well.
Yeah.
I mean, his injury was, quite a bit less significant than Ohtani's injury, in the sense of, long-term damage implications. So seeing him bounce back as quickly as he is, isn't surprising to me. And
Sure.
I think there's a lot to be expected for the remainder of the season for Acuna. And I think his hobby strength is still very, robust in that capacity. So I'm not really worried about him in that way at all. But I'm glad he's back and he's okay. I don't like seeing guys get hurt. It's kind of a bummer because
Right.
their performance impacts the hobby. And when the hobby is vibrant, then, we get to see really cool things being surfaced and sold, and that's fun for me to watch for research. So I'm glad he's healthy and back, and we're going to see some more of him on the field for the remainder of the season. So glad we got to talk about him too.
Yeah, just one thing. I just double checked. The Braves are still in first place. Phillies in second place, and the Nationals in third place. It's a really interesting season because you would have thought it would be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Nationals on top, and whoever else beneath the Nationals.
Right.
So it's a fun NL East division to watch this year, and Acuna is certainly a part of that.
Truly. Yeah. Hopefully he can, turn into the star all of us look forward to seeing with him, because hobby and the sport always need guys that can produce exciting results on the field. So good stuff, man. Speaking of guys that were, pretty exciting on the field, at least in the history of you and I, from observing baseball over the years, Kendry Morales hits walk-off home run against his former team, the Anaheim Angels, in the 10th inning to give the Blue Jays a 7-6 win over the Angels, which I thought was, he's kind of going back to his old stomping grounds, and he still he makes it known that he's still very productive. And, he's kind of been pushed under the wayside, I think, over the years. Like, not a lot of people collect Kendry Morales, I've noticed. It's just his hobby strength is minimal. He just doesn't have the same following that some of these newer guys do, or even some of the older classic guys. And so I see superfractors go unsold for $50, new ones. And so it's a weird market for him right now. But I remember in 2010, he was one of the guys to watch with the Angels.
Yeah, he was. His numbers at the time were being compared to some of the all-time greatest players. And what happened to him when he hit that walk-off grand slam in 2010 still haunts. I'm sure it haunts him, and it haunts a lot of Angels fans and baseball fans, because it was such an extreme high and followed by an extreme low.
Oh my gosh!
And he was never quite himself after that. It was just such a gnarly injury, and I think, if my memory serves correctly, it took him like a year or so to come back and be 100% healthy and really get his swing back. But yeah, 2010, man, he was probably like the future of the franchise for the Angels. He was a switch hitter. He was a power hitter, 35, 40 home runs. I always thought that if he hadn't gotten hurt, we probably wouldn't have signed Albert Pujols, because I think Morales would have been the first baseman.
So a couple things.
So I don't really know.
He missed the entire 2011 season because of that giant brawl at home base. And he actually had a 290 batting average, hit 11 home runs, had 56 hits. His 2009 season was much more dominant, above 300 batting average, at 34 home runs, 173 hits. So he was on his way to achieving greatness, which he, I think, fulfilled pretty decently in the 2012 and 2013 years. But I think by then people had kind of like focused on, oh my gosh, Pujols is with the Angels. And it's still pretty impressive that Pujols has managed to become still productive with the Angels, even though he's, I think, closing out his career on a great note. At least in next pretty soon he's gonna probably hang it up. But looking at Kendry's numbers, he's still a great utility player, and I think that he doesn't get nearly the appreciation that he possibly once had thought he deserved. He was kind of developing into a real star in 2010. So 2010 was a good year for him, and my knowledge of him was growing because I hadn't heard about him previously. So he's still I think a pretty decent hitter, but his stuff just doesn't sell well on online or really anywhere. At least that's been my understanding.
Yeah, and I don't really see that changing. He's 35. He's basically just a designated hitter now. He doesn't really play the field too much. And if you're an older DH, unless you're producing at a high level, it's kind of hard to find consistent work on a team. He's playing with Toronto right now, like we said. And I think he'll continue to find work for the next couple of years, but into his later 30s, I'll be surprised if he can continue the production he's currently outputting. I hope he does. I'm a fan. I know you have some nice pieces of his cards. I'd like to get some someday. I don't know when that day will be. Maybe in like 20 years when he's an absolute nobody.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think he's always going to be a household name in some circles. Yeah. I don't think he's ever going to be a nobody. He's had a pretty successful career, and he's still playing. I sometimes wonder if guys from Anaheim, like the Angels fans, ever got upset when he left to go play for other teams. That happens. We talked about that before. Is that this like diehard mentality feels like it's been portrayed when their players leave because of contracts that expire and they go into free agency and they get picked up by another team because of the past to prime, whatever. This doesn't mean they're bad players. It doesn't mean we should disrespect them. We should still appreciate who they are, what they're doing, and be happy for their successes. I think Kendrys Morales would be considered a star in 20 years. I still think his stuff is going to be available. Nice stuff, nice pieces will still be around. There's just an abundance of things to choose from those 2006 to 2010 block. There's a lot. And he was on the Angels still in 2012. He didn't get traded until 2013 when he played for the Seattle Mariners for, a short minute. But anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting that he made such an important performance, in his old home. I thought that was cool. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I'm sure he felt good about it. I'm sure it feels good to cross that home plate in that stadium, and he won that game for his team. So totally. Happy for him.
Totally. So speaking of pitchers, is that Chris Sale dominated the Mariners in 7 innings. He allowed just 4 hits and struck out 13 batters. I mean, this guy, Chris Sale, is amazing, and his stuff is available as you know, you and I have been kind of talking about this off the record, that
yes,
his stuff is available, and they're nice pieces and they're affordable. Yes, and he's a 6-time All-Star.
He's going to be 30 this year, I think, maybe next year. So he's still relatively young. He's been putting up crazy numbers for the past, I don't know, since like 2013, 2012. He's showing no signs of stopping. He's playing on a team that is bound for the World Series this year anyways. And if he can get a World Series or two under his belt, it's just going to be another case for his Hall of Fame worthiness. Um, and that's when, like you said, we were talking about his pieces off the record.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 or 15 years, when Chris Sale is elected into the Hall of Fame, it's going to be nice to have been able to pick up some of his key rookie pieces like in the $50-$60 range.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from the 2010 and forward block. See, for me, I go for him, I'd go the 2010 stuff. I just prefer those cards a little bit more, but I do also like the stuff with the rookie card logo, the RC logo. I like those too. If I can't get the prospect stuff, I'll get the
Mm-hmm.
rookie year stuff. And a lot of really cool, excellent pieces out there. Just awesome prices. We recently saw a gold refractor from 2010 sell for just north of 60.
Yes.
And then we've seen auto rookie cards sell for around that, you know? And so it's been really cool to see what's available. And yeah, if he keeps this up, those might be good to have in the collection.
Absolutely. I mean, he struck out 308 guys last year.
I know.
It's a really elite level. And whenever I watch him pitch, which I try to do as much as I can, the only comparison I can think of is Randy Johnson. Just his stature, his build, the way they're both lefties.
Mm-hmm.
They both sort of have the extreme like sidearm windup where the ball comes down at such a weird angle towards the pitcher. I mean, if you're a left-handed hitter, I don't know how you even have a chance to get a read on the ball. It is such a hard angle to try and see what the spin is and where it's going to cross the plate and make up your mind in half a second about whether to swing or not. So I think he's just sort of breaking into his dominance, and he's going to be dominant for several years.
I hope you're right, man. I noticed he had a drop off of fan loyalty when he moved from the White Sox to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I remember before he was on the Red Sox, there was a lot of chatter online about his cards, like a lot. And he goes to the Red Sox, and then I hear nothing. It's birds chirping, or it's crickets rather.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of so strange that happens. But yeah, he's super dominant. I think a little bit under the radar right now, just a little bit, because a lot of the focus is on some of the prospects. So might be a good time to grab up something. I'd like to get something as too, but
yes,
I'm so picky that I'll just wait for an orange or something less. That's how I am. But if a gold pops for the right price, I might tackle it. But who knows? Good stuff. He's one to watch. Certainly, good dude.
Yeah.
Moving on, the Rangers make Adrian Beltre, who's 39, available for trade. He can still hit and would be a great asset to any buyer. And mind you, he's a 3,000 plus hitter. The Phillies are reportedly interested in Beltre, which I think would be cool to see him in the Phillies outfit. He's at the end of his career, but it's really awesome to see that there's still interest in this guy so far down the line with such an impressive tenure.
Yes. I've been watching him pretty much since he was a rookie,
mm-hmm.
and he's got Hall of Fame type numbers, especially if he hasn't really shown any sign of quitting anytime soon. So if he can tack on another couple of years of the numbers that he usually puts up, I think Hall of Fame for sure. I think the Phillies would be a great place to see him land because they have sort of a young team, and I'm sure he could teach a lot of those guys. From all of his experience, he's played for so many different teams in so many different situations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has a World Series ring because he played for Texas when they were in the World Series, but they obviously didn't win the World Series. So it'd be great for him to go to a contender, which the Phillies aren't quite a contender right now. But I'm not sure which sort of first place team would need a player like Adrian Beltre and what it's going to take to get him. he's probably one of the hottest guys in the trade market right now. And at 39, that's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's this is his 21st year in professional baseball. I mean, really impressive stuff. And his numbers,
Yeah.
they're very, at least to me, in my opinion, very Hall of Fame worthy. But that's just coming from a guy who's like cherishes the 3,000 hit mark. I'm like, wow, 3,000 hits, like really impressive stuff. Um,
He's close to 500 home runs too.
yeah,
So
he's very close. If he can knock, a few more dingers this year, like get like his 2016 and 17 numbers, get him up there, I think he'll be able to surpass that in the next year and a half, I'd say. So that would put him over the wall, I think, for that. So yeah, he's great, man. I've seen his stuff on the auction block do really well. Some of his, obviously his big two high-end pieces from '97, the Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor and the International Refractor from Bowman Chrome. Both great cards to have. I've noticed the Atomic is somewhat more available than the International Refractor. They're cards I collect. Those are sets that I've been casually building over the last 8 years. I really love those sets a lot. And I've just been putting off buying those two cards. And, I should have bought them back in 2010 when nobody cared. But whatever. I didn't really pay much attention because back then it was the Roy Halladay was the big card. And before that it was Lance Berkman in the Chrome set. And so those were the big one. Kerry Wood was a big one. Travis Lee back in '97, that was a big one. It was like a $350 card as an Atomic Refractor.
wow.
Now it's obviously cheap, but it'd be great to add those cards. If anybody buys them, those are great cards to have in the collection. He's also in the mirror image insert set for Bowman's Best. He has the inverted as well. Those are great cards to have. Great cards.
Who's his mirror image?
Oh man, I want to say it was like Chipper. I want to say it was like Chipper Jones.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Third baseman
was on that.
So you say they're available, but are they? I mean, have you been tracking the prices at all? Are they going for reasonable prices? Are they kind of cheap or expensive?
Depends on how you define reasonable. I think they're still affordable. Yeah, Chipper's the veteran on the card, on his side. And then obviously on the flip side, it's two other guys. I think Russell Branyan and Matt Williams, But I only see these things going up in value with time if he continues to perform. These inverteds are near impossible, but the craziest thing about these inverteds is they're often marked incorrectly because there's nowhere on them that says inverted, so you have to know how to identify the inverteds. But yeah, to me, I think that the Atomics are in still this somewhat reachable range, but I see this card going in the direction as the 95 Bowman's Best Vlad Guerrero rookie refractor, which is completely untouchable now. And so I see it going in that direction. So I would like to get one before it does that. And so it's just, they're available online right now for what I think is pretty good prices. Sold listings for the mirror image Atomic are anywhere from I guess 60 to like under 300. I mean, it just depends on who's selling them. They're accepted offers, and you can go look these up for yourself. But I've seen more of the Atomic refractors listed than the Bowman Chrome International refractors. Those just seem to be a little bit harder to, like a little bit rarer to surface online.
Gotcha.
And they have that classic green fading that's just normal with those early Chrome cards. And so some people are alarmed. If you're listening, don't be alarmed by that. It's pretty normal stuff. Most of these Atomic refractors, International refractors, they suffer from that, aging feature. It's just part of that early Chrome technology. So good stuff either way, though. And those are great cards to have. And I just love those sets. But Beltre's stuff does pretty well right now, and I think it's going to continue to do well as he makes numbers and continues to have coverage of where he's going, what he's doing. And so I'm really happy for him and look forward to seeing what else he has in store for us.
Definitely. Best of luck to Beltre wherever he ends up.
Yeah, totally, totally. Moving on, Trevor Bauer, as you know, very dominant pitcher. Totally took care of the Tigers, giving at the Indians a 4-1 win. His record against the Tigers in 2018 so far, 1.23 ERA, struck out 40 and walked just 5. That's his record against the Tigers in 2018. Really amazing stuff. And Bauer is one of those guys who's dominant, but he's not talked about because I think a lot of the market right now is focusing on some of the new and up-and-coming guys. But I remember back in 2010 and 11, him coming out of UCLA and going in with I think it was the Diamondbacks. To me, I thought he was a dominant pitcher. And I think that he hasn't lived up to the expectations that I think a lot of people put on him when he was coming up. You know, his ERA is not terribly impressive over the last, any year before this year so far is always above 4. And so that's not desirable. But, you know, he has good qualities about him as a pitcher. And, you know, I don't see a lot of his stuff sell high online. It's available, a lot of nice pieces, but stuff just kind of just doesn't move. And I think a lot of that can be chalked up to people's super high bin prices. I know that prevents sales when bins are perceived market, not actual market. And that happens, you know, unfortunately a lot of the time on eBay. People think because they like it, it's worth what they think it's worth, but the market's like, sorry, it's not. You know, it's not a $400 card. It might be a $150 card. So, you know, there's a lot of that happening online right now, but he's, you know, kind of under the radar. I think he's doing well this season. I hope to see him continue to perform at the rate he is presently, knowing where we are in the season.
Right. I mean, he's playing for a great team. But everything you said before is certainly something that's sort of holding him back from being a truly great pitcher. The high ERA, he tends to walk a lot of guys. But he has a lot of strikeouts, and he can have these moments like he did against the Tigers where he just is completely lights out. And I think that the Indians are a potential World Series contender this year, as they have been for the past 2 or 3 years. So it'd be great to see him get a World Series championship onto his resume.
Oh, yeah.
They were close in 2016 when they lost to the Cubs. And, I mean, Cleveland, I think, has the longest World Series drought in all of baseball, at least for teams that have won a World Series. So it'd be great for him and for his team to go win the championship this year. And the way he's pitching this year, it's looking like he's certainly going to help him get there.
Yeah, well, in the movie Major League, Cleveland actually won the World Series.
Okay.
And so it's been a long time. We have to count that one, yeah.
Okay. So it hasn't been that long. It'd still be nice, but I agree with you. I remember back when his cards were his rookie cards were
big,
so sought after, and I was hoping to pull some myself, and I think I only pulled some low level Trevor Bauer stuff.
Yeah, he was in that block of guys like Dylan Bundy and Archie Bradley.
Yeah,
and Garrett Cole even back then was a big prospect because he too, I believe, came out of the UCLA team. You know, it's
yes, he did.
It's interesting to see some of these of these 4 guys that I remember being super popular in that 2011 block, who's kind of carved out a name for themselves and who's kind of been shuffled a little bit. I think Archie Bradley gets like zero interest in the hobby. Like I say zero, I say that kind of like loosely because his stuff sells, but it doesn't sell for nearly what we thought it was going to sell.
Yeah, he's a relief pitcher, which relief pitchers aren't very alluring unless you're, you know, like one of the top closers in the game.
Yeah.
But he's like an 8th inning, 7th inning guy, so he's not really in the he doesn't get credit for winning a lot of games.
Right.
He's a great relief pitcher. He's one of the best in his specific role, but he's such a specialty player that it's hard to get any traction in the hobby. I don't think anybody, PCs relief pitchers, at least that I know of. And yeah, it's funny to see that the trajectory of Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole both coming out of UCLA around the same time, both being really hot pieces in the hobby,
Mm.
and both of them were sort of floundering throughout the beginning of their career, and now they've really hit a stride. Garrett Cole specifically in Houston, he's been incredible to watch, and Trevor Bauer just seems to be getting better and better. And they're both, in their mid to late 20s, so I'm hoping there's a lot more to come from these two.
They're both 27. So
There you go.
They went
So
to college together, and this isn't weird. Back in 2012, I was going to UCLA baseball games at Jackie Robinson Stadium. I was watching them, and great stadium, by the way. If you're ever out there in Westwood, you want to make a trip to see a pretty fun game, check out the Jackie Robinson Stadium at UCLA. Really awesome stuff. Great little nook, where it's located. It's like kind of, you have to go under this tunnel to get into the parking lot. It's a really cool little place. But I used to go watch the baseball games, and they were already professionals by the time I was, watching the game. So I missed watching them. But it's cool to see these guys come up at the same time. They're both 27 years old. They're both developing. And it's good to kind of see where they're headed, and they're still performing. They might not be Hall of Famers yet, but they're still performing at an elite level. I think anybody who's playing at the major leagues is performing at an elite level. That's just the way I see it. I look forward to seeing what Trevor Bauer does for us in the future, and seeing how he develops over time. So to me he's a star. So,
right.
Good stuff, man. Moving on to very sort of almost off-topic stuff here, but gosh, how do I even start this? So, the Erie Seawolves, they are a AA affiliate for the Detroit Tigers. They had what was called Sugar Rush Night recently, and they brought us a unique set of dining items, if you will. Some of us might find some of these things repulsive, others interesting. I think all of us can appreciate them regardless, because they're highly innovative and strangely unique. They released a unique treat for attending fans, a hot dog served in a cotton candy bun with nerds sprinkled on top. Now, I saw a picture of this thing. In fact, I blogged about it. You can actually go to radicards.com. You can see an image of this thing. It is a monstrosity.
Yeah,
I would not eat this thing. Now, there is that a hot dog tastes kind of like bacon. If you put bacon around maple syrup, it tastes good. I'm yeah, but that's bacon and maple syrup. This is a hot dog and cotton candy. It's a little bit different.
Yeah,
So,
there's the whole salty and sweet thing, which is a great sort of palate combination.
Right.
But this is just taking it to an extreme. Yeah, I saw that picture, and it's sort of a trend I've noticed. Minor league stadiums and major league stadiums are all sort of trying to outduke each other and offer these insane food items. I think it's just all marketing and a lot of fluff. I'm more of a traditional beer and a hot dog guy, but
It's available too.
To each their own. If you want to, yes, if you want to eat a hot dog with cotton candy, it's your right. So go ahead, but I will pass.
I actually really like the menu items at ballparks. I've always liked them. I always think they're so cool. Anything from peanuts to hot dogs to this kind of whatever. And so I think it's just kind of fun. Just it makes, you go to a baseball game for an experience. It's
right.
You go for entertainment, just like you go to the theme park. It's the same sort of concept. So you're going to, high price points, interesting food. A lot of it's generic, but it's fun. You get to eat nachos out of a mini baseball helmet. Just fun stuff, right? And you're always hungry afterwards because there's never enough food, but you paid $9 for this snack, essentially. I always like these things, though. I think it's kind of fun. That night, they also released a pretty hefty scoop of ice cream covered in sprinkles and then wrapped in cotton candy. Now, that is, I think, more in alignment with
Sure.
Sugary on top of sugary on top of sugary.
Yeah.
And instead of sugary on top of a hot dog, which is essentially pig, and then wrapped in sugar. It just seems a little bit more in alignment with the my palate. But I think I would just watch and enjoy, not so much order. I think it's just kind of fun to see these things. It got a lot of attention on Twitter. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I'm sure that was one of their goals, was just to sort of get attention and get the Seawolves name out there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're going to like continue to serve it, or I mean, it seems like kind of a pain from a worker standpoint to prepare those things. So I wonder if there's going to be like a special night, or I guess if they're going to continue with the special night, or if they're just going to do it maybe just once this season. I wonder how their sales were.
Gosh, I look at these things as like, well, they're SKUs, right? Like this is one of many of things they sell. If people are buying it, you keep producing it. That's always the case. You keep accommodating the market need. That's like business 101, first day. Never been in a business class. You go in there, So, I think these are very good items to have available if they're selling. But if people are like kind of grossed out by it and it's like a novelty thing, maybe bring it on like when it's just one of these special nights that they have. I don't know. That's just kind of an interesting thought, but interesting stuff. I thought that was cool to talk about because the picture is amazing. I just still get a kick out of it when I think about it. It's a very creative way to produce an item, to make it more fun for the attending fans. Anything to like add an additional like spike of interest and make it more enjoyable. I think that's really cool, and I can really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's move on to some interesting topic that a friend of mine were sitting down having dinner one night. We were talking about this, card doctoring, how ethics are defined and challenged within this kind of like weird, like how do you define card doctoring? See, to me, anything when you're trying to produce a condition of a card to make it in your favor, like before I submit it, I'm going to X, Y, and Z so I can get a better grade. Like that's the card doctoring piece, right? Like in my research, I've learned that there are some people who have smudged out wrinkles on cards using spoons. They like smooth out the wrinkles, and they send them in, and they might get a better grade because the wrinkle's not there anymore. Or they've taken slightly frayed edges and they've razor bladed them to sharp, to where it's not a noticeable difference in size. I've read stories about that. All these things to me are unethical. Doing some research on it, what has been done in this category. And then, I was talking to my buddy about this, and when I got to this, if I get a vintage card and it's got a creased corner, like it's a folded corner, little tiny fold, and I fold it back to put it back in the sleeve so it lays flat, does that qualify as card doctoring? And see, he and I agreed it's not. It does not qualify, because you're just taking a fold and then pushing it back to where it was before it was folded.
Right.
And that to me is not card doctoring, because you're not actually impacting the card in any way. You're not changing the actual condition of the card in any way. It still has a folded corner. You're just folding it back to where it was before it was folded upside down.
Right.
I'm not changing the crease on the corner in any way, and I'm not retouching up anything, and I'm not razor blading edges or anything like that. I'm just taking a fold and pushing it back to the initial, its original location. So that was an interesting conversation. We both agreed that that's not, in fact, card doctoring. Card doctoring is when you try to manipulate the condition of the card in some way to produce a more favorable result as a return. That's when it becomes kind of dicey. So I don't know if you're even familiar with this, Ryan. Have you heard about this?
I'm vaguely familiar with it. I'm aligning with what you're saying about, folding corners and doing these super minor things just to sort of fit it in a penny sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine with me. But when you start getting like external tools involved, if you're trying to flatten it out with something, or if you're trying to trim a weird corner, that's where it gets kind of fishy for me.
Totally. And that's, I think, when the ethics come involved. Like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you don't want to see it in your collection, or are you doing it because you want to have it slabbed and you want to get a better grade? So for me, I don't. When I buy vintage and it's hammered, sometimes I buy it deliberately. There might be like a fold in a corner that's really, it's been like that for a long, long time. but I want to get that fold back to its original location and see if I can put it in a penny sleeve, and then see if over time that will flatten back out to its original state. But I have no intention of grading and selling it. It's just for my own collection, for like an eye appeal thing. Like, I don't want to see a folded corner. I want to see, or like a divot in an edge. Try to like pull the edge back out so it's not, it's not dented inward, just to make it flat again, so that it can fit in my collection. I can enjoy looking at it. So it's an interesting conversation to have, because I've seen some really interesting situations over the years of like, I saw a Derek Jeter card once that was slabbed and came back an 8, same serial number was like 43 to 50 or whatever. There was like a specific serial number. And then a later thread showed that same exact card submitted again, and it was a PSA 10. Now,
Whoa.
I don't know if the 10 was the slab before it was an 8, or if the 8 was first and then it was reslabbed and it came back a 10. I don't know the order of operations here. Okay, all I know is that that's very fishy to me.
Yeah.
And I would be very wary about that kind of thing. See, I've been in conversations with dealers over the years. I bumped into one dealer some years back that I was talking to him about Jerry Rice rookie cards. I was looking for an 8. I'd like to get an 8. So I was in the market for one at the time, and he had 4. And they were all 8s, and they were all, off-centered. I didn't really like any of them. I didn't buy any of them. But he was like, he had mentioned something that made me feel like he had doctored that card, or one of those cards, or all 4 of them, to get the 8s. Because he was like, he had made something in some passing remark about altering a card's condition to return a higher grade. And I was like, well, why would you bring this up into conversations with a customer? This is automatically going to make him think that, this card's been doctored. Like, what the heck, man? And so it's like, I always think like, be honest and ethical, but I'm like that kind of guy. Honesty and ethics, those are important to me. But, when you're in it to make a buck, some people, some markets might attract a certain type of person. Mm-hmm. And so if you can find that opening to make $1 unethically, dishonestly, not honorably, some people, I don't think the majority, I think most people are by and large ethical and good, but there's always going to be that small percentage of guys that are going to try to rook the market to try in their favor to try to rip people off. And so I know that happens, and the sports collecting and sports memorabilia market is, I think, vibrant with these kinds of people.
Yes.
You have to be very careful about what you buy, and condition sensitive type stuff. Just don't be afraid to do your research. Ask the right questions. Bring a magnifying glass. Bring a loop. Start paying attention to the card surface, and look for things. That's the kind of like, arm yourself with the knowledge on how to prevent buying a doctored card. Be very careful about this, especially with significant cards, right? Nobody's going to doctor a 96 Topps Common, but they might doctor like a 52 or 53 or some kind of vintage card that's of some star. And so you got to be careful with that stuff. If it's too good to be true, you might start to question its authenticity in some capacity, just to like arm yourself to make a good purchasing decision. So interesting stuff. I just want to touch on that. Ryan, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I guess I'd mirror what you said. It's unfortunate how much kind of shady business the hobby attracts. So everything you said, spot on. If you're looking to purchase something that's condition sensitive, whether it's vintage or a card that has a weird cut in it, or just a piece of memorabilia that's known for being forged or messed with in any way, just make sure to do your research. And if the seller gives you any sort of indication that something is fishy, don't be afraid to walk away.
This is kind of an interesting topic, kind of a touchy one, I think, for a lot of people. It could be perceived as such, but I think it's something good to think about, to educate yourself so that you can prevent accidentally buying something that has been in fact doctored in some way. So just be careful, do your homework, don't be afraid to ask questions, and also don't be afraid to walk away, as Ryan was saying. So good stuff, man. Let's close it out with some birthdays. We talked about Kendrys Morales. Kendrys Morales. He's 35 as of 6/20. Still very young, and I think I feel like he's still got some production value left in him.
Yeah, I hope he does. I think he'll stick around at least for another couple of years. In the American League, those DH spots are always kind of shifting around, and I think it tends to be hard to find guys that are consistently fulfilling that DH role on a team. Mm-hmm. And, as the older he gets, he'll probably get a little cheaper on the market. So I think he'll find some work into his later 30s. I hope he does. He's fun to watch. So happy birthday.
Yeah. 6/23, we talked about Tim Anderson in an earlier podcast. He turned 25 in this month. So happy birthday. He's still very young and still very new. And so hopefully we look forward to seeing some more of his production value in the future as well, this year included.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you had brought up him previously. Have you been keeping up on him at all? Have you been looking into him?
We did talk about him probably 3 or 4 podcasts ago. He was sort of a breakout star on the White Sox. I think his production has sort of petered out a little bit, but he still has a starting job. He shares the middle infield with Moncada, which is sort of an exciting duo in White Sox Nation. And happy birthday, Tim. I hope that you can finish the season strong and continue to get that starting job at second base for the White Sox.
Yeah, his stuff still does well. His 2013 Bowman Chrome stuff still sells pretty well, and I think it's still relatively cheap. I say cheap because it's like just above the $300 mark. Yeah, happy birthday to him. He's 25. On 6/26, Derek Jeter turned 44. Man, he has accomplished so much, and he's only 44, this guy. I was his age, and I was like, man, blown away by it, how much he's done in his life up to now, and he's only 44.
Absolutely. Huge baseball career, legendary baseball career
Totally.
On a legendary dynastic team. And now he's partial owner of a team that's sort of gotten some flack this year, but
Okay.
We'll see where that goes. He's certainly gotten a lot of negative press, especially in the off season.
Well, I mean, what do you do when you dump all your best guys?
Yeah, exactly.
So what the heck?
I know that he's surrounded himself with some smart baseball minds, and he's not the only person calling the shots in Miami. So I think it's kind of naive to put all the blame on him, but he's the celebrity. He's the face of the franchise right now, essentially, since they don't have a player that's the face of the franchise. If Derek Jeter's in the building, you're going to point the finger at him.
Yeah, they do have they do have a face of the franchise. It's not Derek Jeter. He just doesn't play for the Marlins anymore.
Yeah, he plays up the coast a little bit.
Right. His record, I mean, his 20-year career is outstanding, and so I look forward to his Hall of Fame induction. But I think he's still learning as a manager. I mean, I don't know what his day-to-day operations look like. I don't know how involved he was in the sale. I don't know what I'm not part of that, so I don't know how responsible he is for the loss of his better players. So I don't know what that looks like. But he at 44, looking at his life, he's just accomplished so much in baseball, and he's one of the better shortstops we've ever had in the game, certainly. Mm-hmm. So happy birthday to Derek Jeter, 44. Jim Edmonds on 6/27 turned 48. Now, he was a great outfielder.
Oh, yeah. Love Jim Edmonds. I still remember the day when my dad picked me up from school and told me that he got traded from the Angels to the Cardinals. And it was devastating.
Yeah. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But he had a great career for Anaheim and for St. Louis. Mm-hmm. I know he's beloved by both fan bases. So 48, happy birthday, dude. I would love to. I always thought that he would be in some sort of managerial role because he was such a liked personality by fans and by his teammates.
Right.
So I don't really know what he's up to now in his 48th year, but I'd love to see him back on the field in some respect.
I didn't know this, but he was born in Fullerton, California.
Yeah, man, he's a local dude.
I didn't know that. And he actually went to high school at Diamond Bar. It's just like, I used to live like, in Fullerton, you remember. And so that I know that whole area. I really like that area a lot. I guess he's like a household name in that area. I know, some people talk like, is he Hall of Fame worthy? But I'm not really sure if I can really make that argument for him as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he doesn't have the classic Hall of Fame benchmarks from an offensive player like the 3,000 hits and the 500 home runs, like we were talking about with Adrian Beltre.
Right.
So his name has been on the ballot. I don't recall what share of the votes he received. In my mind, he's not in the Hall of Fame. In my personal Hall of Fame, he's certainly in there. Right. But in the Cooperstown version of the Hall of Fame, not so much for Jimmy. But happy birthday anyways.
Truly. Happy birthday. Happy 48th to Jim Edmonds. On 6/28, which is today, Mark Grace turned 54. Mark Grace.
Woo! 54.
I remember back in the late 80s, he was, pretty new rookie. And I'd file his cards. I didn't file them like I filed Griffey or like Roberto Alomar or Will Clark, Bo Jackson, some of the other guys I was collecting back then. But, he had a little section in my binders when I was younger. And he went on to have a productive utility career, but he was a good hitter. He hit. I mean, he was hit for average and hit for power. And so he had above a 300 career, which I thought was strong. Not a Hall of Famer, but definitely a respectable utility player.
Yeah, and obviously people remember him playing for the Chicago Cubs. He's like a Chicago Cubs legend through the late 80s and 90s. But I remember him specifically in 2001 when he was on the Diamondbacks, where he ended his career, and they won the World Series. And the Diamondbacks were kind of a weird Frankenstein of a team with kind of veterans and weird rookies that no one's heard of, and odd utility guys that have been bouncing around for years. And so he was like a great kind of centerpiece of that team to go out and win a World Series for such a young franchise. I think 2001 was maybe their third year as a franchise. It was such an epic World Series against the Yankees. So I'll always remember Mark Grace for that. So happy birthday, 54.
Yeah, it's so funny you brought up this, that I remember the Diamondbacks roster in 2001, and it was gnarly. They had all kinds of guys that were like veteran. So many good guys, though, were on that team. Kurt Schilling was on that team. Jay Bell.
Randy Johnson.
Matt Williams. Steve Finley, Luis Gonzalez. I mean, these were guys that they had very popular careers. And, Randy Johnson was, I think, a big piece of that as well. And, everybody knows his story, super dominant pitcher. But, gosh, it's interesting to see how they were trying to produce a team kind of just in like a Frankenstein way, really. There were a lot of names that were just total households. So it was just a very interesting team back in 2001. So, happy birthday to Mark Grace. Happy 54th. So good stuff, man. Thank you for tuning in. Ryan, do you have anything left to say?
I guess go Shohei. I think the world's going to be watching when you step into the batter's box. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I hope that he's able to see more production this season, and I look forward to seeing him again. So thank you for tuning into the Radicards podcast on Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Reno, and until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this content, please subscribe. Thank you. Enjoy collecting.